Hello everybody, my name's Dave, thanks for joining me, and today we're going to Bunyip. And the reason we're going to Bunyip is because we're going to do an article on differentials and how they work. We're going to talk about open diffs, we're going to talk about limited slip diffs, we're going to talk about traction control, and we're going to talk about diff locks. Now, I was going to do a video on pre-tensioning your winch, but unfortunately I'm on my own, and I ain't going to do that on my own because you have to wind the car up a gentle slope, and if I was to have a winch cable malfunction, the car would just run down the slope on its own because I wouldn't be in it. So we won't risk that. We'll do that another day when there's two of us. So we're going to do about differentials. Now, I don't know if many of you know about differentials. You probably know about diff locks and how they work, etc. But differentials, knowing how a differential works makes a big difference. So we'll drive down to Bunyip. I'll keep you on for now, and then we'll take over when we get into Bunyip, okay? Right, I'll shut up now, and we'll see you in a minute. Okay, so we're nearing the entrance to Bunyip State Park now. You know you're in the right place because there's an entrance to Kirkcaldy on the left, right there, and then we turn right here, and that takes us into Bunyip State Park, straight onto the gravel track. Soldiers Road is the road we're on. So we'll just go up here, turn right, and then we'll go find somewhere quiet to do a bit of talking. It's midweek, it's Thursday, so it should be fairly quiet anyway on here. Now we're not turning right at this one here, we're turning right at the next one, which is part of this sort of Y-shaped junction-y thing here. You can go straight on, but I prefer to go up here. We'll go find a nice quiet. There are houses up here, so there will be a little bit of traffic, but we'll find somewhere nice and quiet to go and sit. Maybe up there. Yeah, we'll go up here. So I haven't put my diff locks in yet, so I'll go do that now. I've got to pull back just in case anybody comes along. Don't want to block the road. Bit further maybe. That'll do us. Now, the law according to Dave states that if you go through Cockatoo, you must stop at the bakery, get yourself a pasty and a cup of coffee. So first of all, let's do that. Let's have the coffee, and that'll give me a chance to put the proper stand on the camera as well. Okay, we're outside now. I got my coffee, I got my pasty, got some serviettes, we're ready to go. I've spilt my coffee. Glad job we're outside. Good job I got a large coffee. Spilt it all over the bonnet, so typical. Differentials. Let's talk about the types of differentials we have on the car. So what we got on the Jackaroo? Well, on my Jackaroo, and I'm not saying it's the same for everyone, but on the front is an open differential, and on the rear is a limited slip differential. Anybody who's been a hoon, we're probably all a bit guilty of it, has done a burnout in a V8 or anything like that. If you've got a limited slip differential and you're only getting one tyre mark, you're probably your differential's knackered. Not knackered per se, the limited slip is worn out. Let's go back to real basics here. What is an open differential? An open differential is the most basic of differentials. But we can go back one step further and describe what a differential is for. If you don't know, when you've got two wheels, like on a horse and cart, and you've got a solid axle connected to those two wheels, and the horse is pulling the cart, so it doesn't matter. When you go around a corner, both wheels are travelling at the same speed because they're connected together on an axle. But if you think about a circle, if you go around the centre of a circle, you have to travel a lot slower than somebody who's travelling around the outside of the circle. They've got to go faster to keep up with you because you've got less distance to travel than they have. And that's what a differential does. It allows your wheels to turn at different speeds so you can go around corners. Otherwise, one wheel would scrub. And that is exactly how a diff lock works. They lock together when one wheel scrubs. We'll get into diff locks in a minute. But so a differential allows one wheel to turn faster than the other. So when you're going in a straight line, it doesn't matter. However, when you go around a corner on tarmac and both wheels have got rubber wheels, they're both really grippy. So what's going to happen is you're either going to get one wheel slipping or you're going to snap your axle. Well, that's no good. So A, you don't need to lose traction, and B, you don't want to be snapping an axle. So we have a differential. Now, an open differential is the most basic of differentials. What it does is both wheels turn at the same speed. As you get to a corner, one wheel can slow down, the other one can continue turning at a faster speed as you go around the corner. Now that's great as long as you're on tarmac, but as soon as you lose traction, if one side of your car, your rear wheel drive or your front wheel drive car, is on grass, muddy grass, and the other side is on tarmac, and the muddy side wheel starts to spin, all the power is sent by the engine to the wheel that's spinning, and it takes no power to the wheel that's not spinning, which is the wheel that would get you out if you were stuck. In an ideal world scenario, you'd be fine on tarmac, but as soon as you get off and one starts spinning, off-road and one starts spinning, you've had it. We employ a thing called a diff lock. Now we'll talk about diff locks a little bit later. Rear wheel drive, not so much front wheel drive, but rear wheel drive, they use a technique called limited slip to try and get over this problem. Because if all the power is going to the wheel that's got no traction, you're never going to pull yourself out. So what limited slip does, it uses a set of like clutch plates and friction plates in each side of the differential, either side of the differential. If it senses that its one wheel isn't turning and the other one is, it will apply the clutch plates and try and turn both wheels. Now, you don't get a positive rate of turn. You get some turn, okay? And the Jackaroo has got a limited slip diff in the rear, or mine has anyway. I presume most of them have. Now that's only going to work if the clutch plates in the differential are okay. Yeah, back to differentials. So the limited slip diff gives you a little bit of traction and the hope that it's going to get you out, but you're still only on two-wheel drive. So everybody goes, oh well, I'll get a four-wheel drive, that'll get me anywhere. Not so. There is a situation with four-wheel drive. So you've got drive to the two front wheels and drive to the rear wheels. Now you've got limited slip on the rear wheels, but if the rear wheels are both slipping, it's going to make no difference because they're both slipping. You're relying on your front wheels to pull you out, and if one of those starts slipping, it's an open differential with no limited slip diff, so you're stuck. So you've got three wheels spinning and one with traction, and it won't give any power to that wheel, so you're stuck. And there is a situation with four-wheel driving where you can get one rear wheel in the air and one front wheel in the air in the opposite corner, and you can't drive at all. So traction control is another option. Really, traction control is for roads, but it will work off-road, and it will try to give you some type of traction. It's like limited slip diff. It's not brilliant. It will do something, and it does work on all four wheels. So, well, it does on some cars. Sometimes it's only on two wheels. But if you've got a two-wheel drive car, you're only going to get two-wheel traction. On an all-wheel drive car, you might get four-wheel traction control. Anyway, regardless of what it is, it does give you a bit of an effort, an assistance to try and get out of a sticky situation. But it's not ultra reliable. You couldn't rely on it. So then you've got four-wheel drive, you're stuck. A lot of people get stuck because they don't realise that that's what will happen. They think they've got four-wheel drive so they can get out of anywhere, and it just isn't the case. So then what we do in the four-wheel drive world, off-road world, we fit diff locks. Now, there are different types of diff locks. There are air lockers, there are electronic lockers, and there are auto lockers, sometimes called lunchbox lockers. Air lockers do require a compressor. Now, generally they're a small compressor that fits under a seat in a car or something like that. You often hear them on these four-wheel drive shows going like that as they keep topped up. The air compressor forces air down the pipe and then keeps the pressure. That locks the differential. When you release the pressure, it unlocks the differential. Electronic lockers do exactly the same thing with an electronic motor. But lunchbox lockers or auto lockers are different. We'll talk about the problems of lockers in a second, but a lunchbox locker, you still turn it on and off, but it turns on with the four-wheel drive system. If I put my four-wheel drive system on, it engages the front locker. So I've got it on now, and the front locker is engaged. Therein lies the next problem. Because you've got both wheels on the one axle locked together, when you try and turn, especially when you're steering, you can't. It's really hard because you're fighting the traction of the wheels on the road. So a lot of air lockers and electronic lockers, you have to turn them off when it comes to a bend or normal, driving. You would turn them off. Whereas an auto locker doesn't have that facility. So what an auto locker does, it has a ratchet system. When I bought my auto locker, I bought it from Goanaware in South Australia. Now, I spoke to the owner of the company over the phone just by chance, and he was telling me how he had invented auto lockers in the 70s. They're sold all over the world now. In America, they call them lunchbox lockers because they look like an American's lunchbox, although I would have thought they were way too small, but There's a couple of companies make them, but I've got an original Goanaware lunchbox locker, and they're much, much cheaper because you're not having to buy additional equipment like, you don't have to wire it into your electrics, and you don't have to buy a compressor, and there's no electronic, no switches, no pneumatics, no nothing. It's just, it goes in your differential, and that's it. So mine cost me less than $500, and it works really, really well, but it is a bit uncanny at first. When you turn left and right and it's ratcheting, it can be quite noisy. So what basically happens is the auto locker is on all the time, and it only disengages when you're going around a corner. And it only disengages momentarily. If it requires drive, it won't disengage. If the wheels are spinning, it won't disengage. If it's in a straight line, it's only when there is... How can I explain this easily? So basically what happens is, when one wheel twists against the other one, that's when it disengages. Both wheels have to have traction, and one has to be traveling faster than the other for it to disengage. And it only disengages momentarily. It's never going to disengage when you're on a rough track and you need the traction. It's only going to do that when you're on a good, strong, high traction surface. So if you used it on the road, you would get a lot of clunking as you went around corners because you've got high traction surface. So that's pretty much lockers, and that's pretty much differentials. So I think the next thing to do really is to go and get ourselves into a couple of situations and see what we can do. We'll talk about them before we go through them. So let's go and do that. All right. So all I've done is attach you to the dashboard. We're still in exactly the same place as we were when we were talking outside. This is the first situation here. We're in a situation here now. I've got four-wheel drive engaged, so I'll disengage it. Now, I don't know if momentum is going to take me out of this situation. It may well do. It has. Well, we're sliding a bit here. Can you see us sliding? There's a brake. So it's not ideal. So I think what we'll do is we'll go back up that track. Just reverse. And because it's really slippy, I'll show you what happens when we're in two-wheel drive. You can see clearly that we're not getting anywhere. We're sliding all over the place. The back wheels are sliding. So if I now put it in four-wheel drive, let's see what difference it makes. Still sliding, but I'm pulling away a lot quicker. I've got a lot more traction, and all four wheels are slipping. Now I've got the diff lock engaged here, so I can't show you what it's like without the diff lock. I think I've shown you before about or warned you before about the ratcheting noise. You might hear it here. It's a bit slippy, so it might not happen, but we'll see how we go. You heard it there, clunking. That's the ratcheting system where the wheels have picked up some traction and they're ratcheting against each other. So we're going to go along here. I don't want to get onto any steep hills or anything and have to winch on my own. So I'm not going to do that, but we'll see how we go. This track brings you out on the main track further up. We'll go down here. There's a bit of a hill up ahead, so going uphill's all right. We should be good. Now I haven't let any air pressure out of my tyres because I'm not intending to stay on this for very long. So normally you would let your tyres down to about 20 psi. All right, so we've got a puddle here. And we've got the lock gate. Well, that's useful, isn't it? So what we'll do is we'll go back down and hope that they unlock the gate, lock the other gate. No, I can't do that. We'll go through here and turn around in here. Got to be careful, I don't want to reverse into any trees. And now, because if I brake, I'll slide, and because if I go too fast and I have to brake, I'll slide. I'm just going to go down here in first gear. I'm not going into low ratio, but I'll go into first gear. Just keep the brakes on a constant pressure so that it's not locking the wheels. I might just put my sunnies back on. Hard to see the camera when my sunnies on, but anyway. Back to the ash track. We'll try and turn left here. If you're in neutral and you're just idling along, it will turn. If you accelerate, the back end will push the front end straight on. Now sometimes what you've got to do is you've got to hit reverse to get the get it out of four-wheel drive. So the gate we've just been to, stuck at, is up here on the left, just on this track here, coming up on the left here. Spencer track, that was where we were stuck at the gate there, we had to turn around. And there's a left turn up here. I don't know whether we should take that or not, I don't know. We'll see how we go. Can you believe there are people's houses here? Hard to believe that there are people living here, but there are houses here. Did I say cockatoo earlier on when I was talking about Monbulk? When I was talking about the pie and the pasty and the coffee, it is Dave's Law says that if you go through Monbulk, not cockatoo, Monbulk, you have to stop at the bakery, get a coffee and a pasty. It's the same if you go through Launching Place. They've got a good bakery there too with coffee. Now the oddest thing you'll see up here is that there'll be a letterbox at the side of the track, because like I say, there are a number of houses up this track in the strangest of places. Can you imagine being a postie up here? And there's one right there, look, number 890, and there's their driveway going off down there. And there's a wallaby. Do you all see the wallaby bouncing away there? House for sale. Look at that driveway. Land Cruiser owner. No, Nissan Patrol. So much for showing you some muddy puddles or things like that. I don't see the point in keeping hook locks on if we're out, or we're almost out anyway. So this is Beenack Road according to the map. So does it take us to Beenack, or is it taking us away from Beenack? We look like we're getting back to civilization, so I reckon we're heading towards Beenack. I have no idea where Beenack is, but we'll go there and we'll see.